And over that period of our partnership, our families even kind of merged together. We were together, the families were together, and it was just off days you'd do something together. And then I thought, I just talking to Mark, there is almost another Stanley son. And the reason I say that, because we would remember that Pam and Lorraine were off taking the boys swimming. They'd gone swimming. Stanley and me were working, all right, Stanley and I. And we were working, and he got a call. And then, if y'all remember, you carried dimes in your pocket, a quarter, and all they gave you was a number to call, and you found a phone booth or friendly business let you use it, and you called. So he got out and called and got back in the car. And I said, what is it? He said, one of the boys has got the Pam and Lorraine's on the way, Florine, I'm sorry, Florine. She said, I'm getting tired, so I should have cut it to Flo. But Florine had called and told him that one of the boys had got a rock in his nose, and they were on the way to Florida first day. And I said, well, which one of them? He said, who else but Mark? So, Barry is the closest you go to cover. And I asked him about that rock, and he said, just a safe place to keep it. I said, as we began our time together, over the time I learned that Stanley was military. He was a Vietnam veteran. And he developed this voice as a DI drill instructor, sergeant. He used it to tell jokes, he used it to tell stories. Well, the first incident I had with Stanley, when I wasn't too sure of the boy, we were crossing the 2nd Avenue Bridge, and a young Marine, spiffy, walking across that bridge, had on his dress blues. I don't know why he was dressed like that. And walking tall and straight, and Stanley rolled the window down. Didn't announce what he was going to do. He just rolled the window down, and I didn't say roll it down, because they did roll them down. Not now, but they did then. And he yelled out at this young Marine walking across the bridge. And the Marine was, I can't do it anymore, I can't even get that straight. Walking around, and Stanley yelled out, strut you, blankety blank, strut. But he used this drill sergeant's voice. I can't do it. He used that voice and told that voice. And my first thought was, here, I don't know this guy. We're going to be in a fight on the 2nd Avenue Bridge. Traffic going both ways. Men in the county police car, county police uniform. And we're going to have to fight this young Marine. And I thought, here we go. And neither one of us going to have a career when this is over. Because, you know, just hollered out at him. Didn't tell me he's going to holler anything. But the young Marine, and I'll never forget it, he just kind of stopped and turned toward us, because I'd stopped, because I thought, Lord, we're going to catch it now. And stopped, and he turned toward us and broke into a big grin and saluted. Saluted Stanley. And I said, there, right there was a brawl avoided on 2nd Avenue Bridge. And it's shift change time, so there's a crowd there. But then I realized Stanley knew his people. Stanley knew people, Stanley knew what he could say to people, and he knew how to say it to them. And you could watch that develop and grow through the years we worked together. And nobody else but Stanley could have gotten away with that. There would have been a brawl on Broad Street, Second Avenue Bridge. But that was Stanley. He knew it, and he used it. The Marine evidently had recognized that DI voice. And Stanley never DI, he just acted like one. And he recognized it. And the way Stanley had said it, now I left the blanks out. That would have, I left the words out, said blankety blank. That would have offended me if he hollered that at me. But I can't say him, we're in church. And he said that to this young Marine, and you that's been under the care or the guidance of the DI, you'll know what was in those blanks. And you can tell the rest of it, but I can't say. That was the first incident I had with Stanley, and we worked together for a while. I think about 2 weeks I've been with Stanley, and there she sits. You can ask her. I went home. I think he was working second shift. 11 o'clock at night. Went in, spoke to Pam, and how's your day? Whatever going on. And I said, Pam, I'm going to tell you. I'm either, with this new partner, I'm either going to have a time in my life as a police officer, or I'm going to prison. Ask her if I didn't say that. Because I thought it would go either way. I don't know with Stanley. Never anything that violated the law, well, it was close. There was a line, and then you didn't cross, but asked her if I wasn't in earnest when I told her I'm going to have the best time of my life, or I'm going to prison. And I told her, I said, I don't know which it's going to be, but I'm going to write it out. So it's just, and
he's not in prison.
we rode together for a while, our families were together, and then as time goes, it moves you on, you promoted, you go to different areas, and then he came back. We got back together when he came back to investigation. And we worked a lot of years in investigation together, and I could tell you, and I dare anybody, police, anybody in here, to stand up and tell me that they ever saw a better investigator or a harder working investigator in their life. You won't. You won't. The boy just has this thing where it's bulldog. He didn't spend time at the station lollygagging around. He made his morning calls, or when he came in, made the calls that was laying on his desk. He'd gone, and you wouldn't see him. He'd gone. He's working. And some of them would gripe, so we hadn't heard from Stanley. He hadn't answered a call. But I always knew if Stanley was going to disappear or going to be gone a few hours, somebody was coming to the house with him. He was on the hunt or he was on the trail, and if he, 2 days he's kind of lax, he didn't answer his call, somebody coming to the house, and that's just what he did. And I never saw one better. He developed people. I don't know. If I did things that Stanley did with people, not mean things, but there's a lot Stanley could have been complained on about. But I never saw him, or I don't know, Chief Free may answer, I don't know. Did he ever get a complaint? He should have got a lot of them. If it was me, I'd get them. If there's any of you, you'd get them. Stanley did. Stanley locked them up, maybe fought them, knocked them down, I don't know. But the next day, see him on the street, hey Stanley, hey Jim, how you doing? Well, my nose is a little sore. It was just amazing. And he developed. The boy could find anybody because he had somebody somewhere that was willing to tell him what he was looking for, but it was his attitude. Stanley treated you fair, he treated you honest. I don't know of a lie he ever told. They're accused of a few, but I don't know of a lie he ever told to me in a courthouse or anywhere. He was so honest and so straight out with his words, And I had actually had a lawyer come to the police station wanting to see a file. Said, if you let me see the file, we may plea him out, and we may not have to go to court. And I said, well, yeah, I'll let you see it, because they're gonna give it to you anyway. He said, who's trying this case? And I said, Stanley Sutton, it's his case. Forget it. Forget it. And I said, what? He said, I'm gonna plea. If we can get a plea, I'm gonna plea. He said, every time I go to court with Stanley, he puts me on the defense. He said, it makes me feel guilty. He turns it around on me and he said, I'm not going through that. If the boy pleaded, we're gonna plea. As far as I know, they did. Yeah, I know I gotta hurry there. Two things I want to say about Stanley. You know the person he is. Twice he came to my bedroom window in the middle of the night, banging on it.
Yeah, he did.
Banging on the darn window. Wouldn't come to the door and ring the doorbell and knock on the door. He'd come banging on my bedroom window. You know, you get shot like that. But that was Stanley. The first time he was fussing at me. He wanted to fuss, and you think you could wait till the next day. But no, he wanted to fuss, middle of the night. He's working late and I was off, and he was on me bad. Some disagreement was having about what's going on in the department. He was on me bad. Well, she heard it, she can testify, but she's laying there. And
It's just Stanley.
we got that worked out. Could have done it the next day, but we got it worked out that night, middle of the night. And the next time he came to my bedroom windows, not the doors, not ringing the door, he was banging on my bedroom window. Stanley had found a whole family that was stranded here for Christmas. And what he did, he put that family in a motel room, and the Christmas morning was the next day. He went out that night banging on windows and doors of all the police, and even picking up anything he could get for the kids of that family for Christmas. And even my son Joe, who loves Stanley and liked to be around with Stanley, make him laugh. He got involved and wanted to give him stuff that was his for Christmas. And Stanley did. He spent all that night, and mom and daddy told him that's the best and biggest Christmas his children had ever had. Their children had ever had, because Stanley got out that night and collected for them. And Stanley can go to your house, anybody's house, and they'll tell you, and you're going to do what you can to help Stanley, or what you're going to do for Stanley. You're going to do what you can do. Stanley, I don't know how to tell you. Most of you know him, and you can't tell all the stories about Stanley in church. Never will you meet a more honest, straightforward, tell you like it is, won't lie to you, hurt your feelings if necessary, and tell you. Heartfelt, warm-hearted person. You won't meet another, but will still be there if you need somebody needs knocking down. The bad guys knew him as fair and honest, but they knew he was also tough. They didn't fool Stanley much. And I don't know. Gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss him.
So, I'm not Chief Shiflett. I'm not Bill Shiflett. I'm Matthew Shiflett, and I'm his son. My father couldn't be here today because of medical procedure, but he asked me to come in instead. And just like Tommy said, and all of you in this room have such special memories of Stanley. I do too. Growing up from a little boy, he knew me before I knew myself. You know, wouldn't say he was another father to me, kind of like a crazy uncle. You know, he would just do crazy things. You know, for me, my memory was him coming over to my house and eat a dog biscuit. I don't know why I did it. It doesn't name it. Blew my mind, but it stuck, right? And you know, when my dad was asking me to do this, and you know, he wrote down stories, and he was going to share stories like everybody else, and they were going to make you laugh, make you cry, remember what Stanley was. But what he asked me to share today is probably the greatest memory I think that to leave you with, you know, as his family, and as his friends, and as his police brethren. You know, you guys know way more stories than any of us probably should. But so I'm going to read this letter that he wrote. Actually, he wrote it to Mark as a part of this. But I think listening to this letter will show you kind of what Stanley meant to my dad, how he loved him as a brother, without a doubt. He loved him as a great friend, and you know, this last thing that he did probably meant more to my dad with Stanley than any other story before. So if you'll bear with me, I'll read this letter to you. Mark, I just wanted to touch base with you about my visit with your dad. You know, Stanley and me have done a lot of stuff over the past 40-something years. A lot good and some bad. I do consider myself as a Christian, even though I sin on a daily basis. But because of my faith, I do believe I have the ability to ask for forgiveness, and do believe he hears my request, even though I let him down so much. I went to visit Stanley today because he was heavy on my heart. There was no one there while I was there, and I believe this was meant to be. As I sat there, I knew he did not look good, and I knew in my heart I had to talk to him about his faith to make sure he and I both understood what we needed to do on our part to make sure of our path to heaven. There's only one other person that I've had this talk with, and it was my dad before he passed away. In my conversation, he confirmed to me that he was a believer of Christ, and affirmed to me that he was going to heaven, and that relieved my heart more than you will ever know. So today, May 30th, 8:41 a.m., I told Stanley I wanted to pray for him and me. After this prayer, I asked Stanley if he loved Jesus, and he said he did. I asked him if he believed in Jesus, and he said he did. According to my beliefs and as what the scriptures say, I truly believe Stanley is a saved person, and he has been forgiven of all of his sins. I also believe that when Stanley's time comes, he in fact will go to heaven. Stanley and I have become old men now, and our time on this earth will come when the good Lord takes us away. Stanley has done many favors and helped me when no others would, and he never asked for anything in return. That shows the true meaning of friendship and willingness to help his friends and what I consider a brother. That in itself is what the Lord would have us to do. I do not know if I am worthy or qualified to talk to Stanley, or if you approve my conversation about this. But I know I could not leave that room until we had a conversation, and I do believe the Lord wanted me to have that conversation, so I could not go against the Lord's will. The only reason I'm telling you this is so you and your family will know that Stanley confirmed his love for the Lord, and since he did that, he will go to heaven. And when the time comes, not because I said it, but the Lord has said it, and that's his promise. From prior conversations with Stanley, I believe others have talked to him about his salvation, and based on those conversations, he had previously committed his faith. But I know I had to make sure, and when I heard his commitment today, my heart was relieved, and I hope yours is too. Stanley may live another 10 or 20 years, we just don't know. But I know that when his time comes, he will be in heaven enjoying the good life. My prayers will be for Stanley and y'all's peace in accepting what the Lord will, whatever it may be, and whenever it may be. Your dad is a great friend to me. I felt it was my duty to have this talk with him, and I know that the Lord was listening to all Stanley said. Mark, this time has come. He is in heaven. Now, Stanley, like I said, has many memories, and anytime we lose somebody like this, is that what we try to remember, right? But we need to remember where Stanley is, what he's doing now, right? I mean, when we take this, his passing will impact us all, right? It impacts every bit of us in different ways, to the police, to the family, to the friends. And so, you know, it's important for what we have to remember is what Stanley did for us, how he impacted us, and how we carry his his vision forward for how it impacted us. So the prophet Isaiah has said that, you know, we're called to bring joy to the mourning. So some of you are experiencing grief and mourning and all of that, but today I ask you to put on that garment of praise and know that God is faithful and Stanley is there, joyful. So how do we do that? How do we put on that garment of praise to release the grief and sorrow? Well, what we do is we rejoice with those who rejoice. And right now, we know that Stanley is rejoicing. He is rejoicing. He is so happy in this moment right now. So, you know, as mine passing, you know, to speak something briefly good about the person. We know what he did, but I want to speak good about what he's doing now and how happy we are for him now. So thank you all, and let's rejoice with him.
I come get you.
It's perfect outside.